Hi, I'm Kim Wilson, co-founder of Cocoa Future Collaborative. Today, I'm excited to invite you to taste and see both God and chocolate in a deeper way. My friend Susan put it well, when we taste the real gospel or real chocolate, we're no longer satisfied by cheap counterfeits. Real faith and real chocolate both cost more, but the rewards are greater still. So it's my prayer today as we journey together, we'll discover new aspects of both God and chocolate that lead us to love both even more. Today we'll be tasting craft chocolate. This is not your regular store-bought candy bar. These are delicious products that seemingly do the impossible. They provide a blissful taste journey with only a few short ingredients. So if candy bars were an American processed cheese slice, this is more akin to a carefully curated cheese board. If you haven't already, let's prep for the tasting. You can pause the video after this to go get what you need. Grab a spoon, plate, and napkin per person. Make sure to have plenty of warm water on hand because warm water cleanses your palate better than cool between tastes. And if you're sharing, it's helpful to have a sharp knife and cutting board or some gloves to break the bars apart with your hands. If you're a note taker, pull out pen and paper along with the tasting guide insert so you can take notes on your favorite bars or flavors that you notice. So with that, let's start our journey. Why the name Two Theos? Theos is God in Greek, the New Testament's original language. It's where we get words like theology, monotheism, and atheist. Theobroma Cacao is the Latin name for cacao. Theobroma is a genus of 26 species originating in South and Central America, and it's translated food of the gods, thus the name Two Theos. Cacao has two cousins in the same Theobroma genus that are gaining in popularity and worth a try. Theobroma grandiflorum, also known as cupuaçu, is indigenous to Brazil and mostly known for its fruit. You'll find the cupuaçu fruit featured as an inclusion in the Mission Chocolate Bar in our Travel the World Through Chocolate tasting. The other, Theobroma Bicolor, has many names: Macambo, Jaguar, Pataxte, or even white cacao, and is typically enjoyed for its seeds. Before we get laser focused on Theobroma Cacao, I want to introduce you to a lightly salted snack version of Theobroma Bicolor by Canopy Bridge. Based in Ecuador and founded by Marta and Jacob, Canopy Bridge's goal is to conserve biodiversity. By processing foods like Macambo, they bolster incomes of conservation-focused farmers and forest dwellers by connecting them to food cultures around the world. And one quick note as we get ready to taste our first product. You'll hear directly from each maker via video. Feel free to open and enjoy their products as their videos are playing. And then after each video, if you're tasting with a group, pause the video and take time to share your impressions with one another. Here are some questions to consider. Have you ever tasted anything like this before? What does it remind you of? And what do you like or not like about it? It's important to remember God created us all uniquely, and that includes our taste buds. It's entirely possible for two people to have completely different preferences, and that doesn't make one person wrong and the other right. It just means that we're different. And that's part of the fun of tasting with others, is that shared experience of discovering a new food together. If this is your first time tasting Macambo, here's what to expect. This broad, flat, white seed has a creamy, mild, nut-like flavor and texture reminiscent to me of a raw cashew. Packed with a hefty dose of protein and fiber and antioxidants, it's a super satisfying and nutrient-dense snack. Now, let's hear from Canopy Bridge.
For generations, indigenous women in the Ecuadorian Amazon have planted, harvested, and consumed the seeds of a rare relative of the cacao tree, known as Macambo, or white cacao. In their forest-like orchards or chacras, they tend these trees for decades as they grow up to 20 meters tall, dropping their fruits only when they're fully ripe. These trees help sustain their families and the largest tropical rainforest on the planet. Carefully harvested, peeled, sorted, and roasted, they yield a rainforest nut that's unlike anything else. Delicious, and versatile as a snack, for home recipes, for chocolate makers, and in the hands of some of the best chefs and restaurants in the world. From rainforest to table, Macambo.
My own story begins in the US with the first portion of my career at the world's largest winery. I left wine to work several years in repurposing business, a faith-based business training and consulting program with Brett and Lynn Johnson out of the Bay Area. While with them, in 2009, I read a book called Not for Sale: The Return of the Global Slave Trade and How We Can Fight It by David Batstone. I knew this was an issue close to God's heart. He paid the price for all to be free, not just spiritually, but physically, emotionally, and mentally as well. After finishing the book, I prayed a simple prayer asking the Lord if I could be part of his solution for setting people free from bonded labor. A few months after that prayer, I heard this in my quiet time. You're going to get back into consumer products. It's something unique to be grown in the area, something that requires a lot of manual labor, can't be done with machinery, something that could be packaged as shelf stable, can be enjoyed both in the growing region and around the world, something that is natural and sustainable, seems to be savory, not sweet. I just wrote it down in my prayer journal because I had no idea what it meant at the time. Later that year, a friend of mine who knew I was a chocolate lover mentioned, Kim, did you know that 40% of the world's chocolate has slave labor somewhere in the supply chain? I didn't. But I had just tried cacao nibs for the first time and understood that they could be savory and not sweet. I looked back at this list from the Lord and realized cacao fit. The Lord was inviting me to work with him in cacao and chocolate. So I'm excited to introduce Cacao May and their deliciously pure organic cacao nibs from the Dominican Republic. They're a family-owned, women-led business focusing on 100% cacao products with no fillers or additives. And rest assured, all of the products promoted by Cacao Future Collaborative don't use slave labor. They are creating a fair and more equitable cocoa industry, paying fair wages to farmers and building the local community too. So let's hear from Jose Alejandro.
Hello guys, I'm Jose Alejandro, co-founder for Cacao May, a family-owned business located at the heart of the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. So as our brand says, we make a lot of products of chocolate, one of them being cacao nibs, which are bits of toasted, roasted, and peeled cacao, which are perfect as a crunchy topping for your favorite dessert. They got an intense chocolate flavor with some special fruity notes, which is the dominant profile flavor of the Dominican cacao. And we also got our Cacao May powder, perfect to go with the brownie alongside the nibs. It's perfect for bakery, it's organic, no GMO, no sugar added, 100% cacao. It's ideal for anything you want to make, bake, or drink. We try to work the most sustainable way possible, working with the organic certified cacao farms and giving the most utmost care and quality control to our products. Also, some chocolates are coming soon, and make sure to hit us up at Amazon to ship directly to your lovely houses.
Now, years later, I often read the Bible with farming and food at the forefront of my mind. I'm struck by countless scriptures like Psalm 128:2 that says, "You will eat the fruit of your labor, blessings and prosperity will be yours." God's intent for us is to enjoy the literal and financial fruit of our labor. And early on in my cacao journey, I realized it's not normal for people to grow food that they don't eat. But that's exactly what's happening in crops like cacao. In essence, after being discovered by the Spaniards, it was exported in its raw form for processing in Europe and eventually in the US, and it's been like that for 400 years. There are millions of smallholder cocoa farmers all over the world, many of whom have never tasted chocolate because historically it's not been made locally. And speaking of fruit, did you know that cacao is actually a fruit? Chocolate is made from the seeds of the cacao fruit. There is one seed inside each of these little white fruit sections, about 40 to 60 in each pod. Unless you visited a cacao farming community, it's unlikely that you've tasted the fruit. It's remarkable when fresh. Today, we're going to taste the next best thing, cacao fruit pulp. It's the equivalent of what applesauce is to a fresh apple, 100% cacao fruit with nothing added. The fruit is typically wasted in the conventional chocolate making process, but with some intentionality, it can be saved to create a tasty product and an extra source of income. I'm excited to introduce Lila from Ecuador. Her family has been in cocoa for 4 generations. And what's great about her business is that it trades directly with farmers and farmer cooperatives to eliminate unnecessary middlemen. This way, she can offer her customers traceability to the farm level. We'll learn shortly why that's so important. Let's hear from Lila.
My name is Lila Carvajal. I'm the founder of Cocoa Supply and Chocolatier. Cocoa Supply is the distributor where we sell our products worldwide, Netherlands, US, and Australia, and all Europe. Today, I would like to talk to you about our cacao fruit nectar, which is 100% cacao pulp that has been separated from the beans through a centrifuge, and then it has been pasteurized so that it becomes shelf stable, and that's also why you see it becomes a little bit more beige because of the caramelization. The flavor of the cacao nectar is a little bit citrusy, somehow reminds you a little bit of lychee, floral undertones, and even though it doesn't go directly as an ingredient into the chocolate, it has some flavor undertones that appear due to the fermentation. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit, and if you would like more information, please let us know, and enjoy your cacao.
Last year, I read the Message paraphrase, and I loved this translation of Proverbs 25:27. It's not smart to stuff yourself with sweets, nor is glory piled on glory good for you. Other translations render it, it's not good to eat too much honey. Science, especially in the last 5 years, has borne this out. And though we're familiar with chocolate as a sweet treat, cacao beans themselves have almost no sugar. Great chocolate, crafted well, like great wine or coffee, doesn't need any additives. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to Purity Chocolate. As you tasted earlier, cacao nibs on their own have almost 0 sugar, but the fruit surrounding each seed is sweet and tangy. AWKI's Purity Chocolate replaces cane sugar with pure cacao fruit. So with Purity, we can taste cacao in the context God originally intended. Each of AWKI's products are created to awaken all of our senses and to support our brain and cognitive health. And as a bonus, if you follow us on social media, Natalia creates most of our content. We're super grateful for her and for her products. So now as we taste our first chocolate, let us take a breath together and prepare ourselves to slow down and savor a beautiful craft chocolate.
Hi, I am Natalia. I am the founder of AWKI Chocolates, a company based in Ecuador. We are known for making very innovative chocolates, but today we are going to taste a bestseller chocolate, this one, the Purity one. This chocolate is sweetened with the cacao mucilage, which is the white pulp that covers the beans. We use the cacao mucilage in a pure way, freeze-dried, but absolutely pure. This makes that our chocolate is suitable for diabetics. So this chocolate comes in the shape of these coins, which have the faces of ancient gods. When you taste this coin, you will find very intense notes from citrus fruits, like maybe orange or tangerine, but this comes absolutely from the pulp. But also you will feel behind some notes of maybe jasmine or herbal plants, because the cacao that we use is very aromatic and it has really amazing flavors. And combined with the intense flavor of our cacao beans, then it makes a wonderful mix. So I'm going to taste it, but I invite you to try these ones, which are really, really awesome. Yeah. So the citrus comes first, then you can find the intense flavor of the cacao per se, plus a really soothing sensation from the cacao butter. Oral creations include cacao nibs, which make them crunchy, because crunchy foods are known to help you release anxiety and stress. Thank you for being with us today. Bye.
I don't often think of luxury foods when I hear Psalm 128:2, you will eat the fruit of your labor, but it finishes with blessings and prosperity will be yours. Maybe there's a reason that the most highly esteemed food and drinks are created from beginning to end in a single place. Whether it's farm to table restaurants, estate grown wines, or single malt scotches in the whiskey world. I'm not sure what the psalmist had in mind, but I do believe experiencing foods with unparalleled craftsmanship can inspire us and draw us as close to the Lord as the visual arts, music, or dance. After all, the culminating event of all time is the marriage feast of the Lamb. Imagine what will be on the Lord's abundant table. I believe there will be chocolate in heaven. And I fully anticipate it will be a reflection of an intimate partnership between the land where it grows, our Creator, and people designed in His image. Chocolate doesn't yet have designations or iconic brands like wine or whiskey, but the term tree to bar is growing in recognition, and Argan Cove is a brand leading the way. At every step, they're making conscious choices to create the world's best tasting chocolate. Like the concept of estate-grown wine, tree to bar means they carefully manage every step from the cacao farm to the finished chocolate bar straight to your door. And the quality shows. They're one of the most award-winning chocolate brands in the world. We're about to hear from Sally. As a side note, if you want to learn all of the steps of how chocolate is made from the farm all the way to the finished bar, Sally is the incredible guide for our Taste Chocolate from the Source on-demand video and tasting.
Hi, I'm Sally McFadden from Cacao Chocolate. I'm one of the co-founders and also the chocolate maker here. So we're based in Granada in Nicaragua in Central America. We've been making chocolate now for over 6 years and we've won over 86 international awards in that time. We have our own cacao farm about 10-15 minutes from the city of Granada where we have a chocolate factory. What was really important for us is that when we set up the cacao farm was having a scientific approach to farm design, fermentation, and genetics, but also enduring our chocolate making process as well. Today, we're going to try our Mombacho bar. It's a 70%, it's only 2 ingredients, and it has tasting notes of raisins, cranberries, and blackberries. This bar it's quite thin, so you might notice all of our bars are this thickness. It was specifically chosen that way because of the experience that you have when it melts on your tongue. For us, really enjoy this bar. It is one of our favourites, and if you enjoy wine, recommend pairing it with a Shiraz or a full-bodied red wine. I hope you enjoy our bar.
Circling back to more of my cocoa journey, as I started full-time in cocoa in 2013, I heard 2 specific things from the Lord. First, get a group around me praying, and 2, go understand the ground realities of cocoa growers. Though I had several industry colleagues in chocolate, not one was able to connect me with cocoa farmers. It took 6 months of diligent networking to secure an internship on the ground in Indonesia. I was super frustrated by the delay, but God's timing was perfect. I overlapped with a national roadmap on how to sustainably double cocoa production. High-ranking employees from the biggest players in global cocoa and chocolate attended. This was a group who could make a real difference, and I had a front row seat. At the time, cocoa farmers were reputed to earn a quarter of a living wage. Even if the 3rd largest cocoa producing nation could double production and the global price stayed constant, they were still only halfway to a living wage. I knew more needed to be done. The message paraphrase of Isaiah 58:6 really hits home for me. It reads, break the chains of injustice, get rid of exploitation in the workplace, free the oppressed, cancel debts. You may be wondering how living wages and forced labor relate. Forced labor is the result of a perfect storm of factors. The U.S. Department of Labor released a study on the cocoa industry in 2021. They observed that experiencing high unemployment, income shocks, and debt could cause someone to fall prey to trafficking, and that employers facing strong downward pricing pressure can be tempted to use forced and trafficked labor to keep their costs low. The study unpacked many more factors, and all are true in cacao. And while we can't change everything, we can create new options that eliminate many of them. And here are two examples of how makers we work with in Cocoa Future Collaborative are creating a better cocoa future. First, they're reducing unemployment by making products locally and even creating higher skilled jobs. Second, they're reducing downward pricing pressure by trading directly. This often creates a fairer negotiation, removes middlemen, and allows farmers to avoid selling to the highly volatile commodity market. I want to give you some context on who gets paid for your chocolate, especially with recent news about record high cocoa prices. A traditional cocoa value chain often has between 8 to 12 steps from cocoa farmer to your door. Typically, 3 to 5 of those levels are traders who all share in that tiny sliver that you see for the cocoa farmer in this pie. Each step in the chain takes the cost of their inputs from the step before and then adds their own cost plus a markup for profit. The more steps in the chain, the more the price is likely to skyrocket. You can imagine the perfect storm we talked about, with both income shocks from the commodity market combined with downward pricing pressure from all of the steps in the front of the chain. It creates a hotbed for forced labor and unfair wages. As I sat in Indonesia with all of the biggest players in 2013, I knew growing communities deserved a larger and more profitable piece of the cocoa pie. And they also deserve to eat produce from their own farms instead of exporting raw cacao for an impossibly low price and then paying 5 times as much to buy it back as chocolate. With that context, it's the perfect time to explain what we do at Cocoa Future Collaborative. Our goal is to focus on makers in countries of origin to build up local economies and increase income potential by up to 5 times versus traditional cacao exports. We ourselves are not a maker. We're a 501c3 nonprofit collaborating with origin makers worldwide to create a fairer and more direct cacao supply chain. We aim to remove obstacles for foreign makers and level the playing field, whether that be helping them navigate FDA, logistics, or e-commerce. We're also not a retailer. Our goal is to facilitate as few steps in the chain as possible. That's why we connect you directly to the maker. And it's also why our website tells you how many steps are between you and the farmer. All of the makers we're tasting today have a maximum of 3 steps between you and the person that farmed your cacao. This allows growing communities and countries to earn more. With all of that background, I think it's time to taste some more chocolate. I am excited to introduce Janet Liriano of Inaru to share about their 70% dark cocoa rounds and how they're investing in the local community. Janet and her sister Erica are daughters of a cocoa farmer in the Dominican Republic and want their chocolate to be known as an ethical luxury that is the best chocolate for the world. Here's Janet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janet Liriano, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Inaru. Inaru is based in the Dominican Republic. Our factory's here, all of our amazing farmers are here, and I'm excited to introduce you to this product, the 70% cocoa round. Our 70% can be used for baking, for sipping. We actually call this line the Sip, Snack, Bake line. I personally love this because it's the perfect balance of being a dark chocolate, but still has that sweetness, still has that smoothness. And the story for how we created the 70% is actually pretty interesting. So in the Dominican Republic, drinking cacao is not unusual. People drink it like coffee, and there are several local brands that make these like thick tablets that melt. And we thought, why don't we bring the Dominican cocoa experience, but in a way that's easier to use for customers around the world, which is how this product was made. So instead of having these big square tablets, which is common, we have them in these little rounds, which is great for baking, as I said, and we add back cocoa butter so that there's a really smooth melt. And our cocoa butter is natural, so you get to enjoy the flavor since it's not deodorized. One of the reasons we built our factory here in the Dominican Republic was to create amazing jobs in chocolate. By having a factory in the Dominican Republic, we've been able to pay our farmers on average at least 30% more than what the market price dictates. We're proud to be employing dozens of Dominicans, over 80% women here in the country, and we are the only exporter that's 100% dedicated to branded finished products.
Genesis 2:15 says, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it." Cacao, when farmed sustainably, can be a beautiful part of stewarding the land for and with God. I'm not aware of anyone who does this better than Mashpee Chocolate out of Ecuador. They started as a regenerative agroforestry project. Here's what that means. Regenerative farming doesn't deplete the land. Instead, it rebuilds the soil health and ecosystem, leaving it better off than when they started. Agroforestry means a variety of plants are planted in a mutually beneficial ecosystem. It's the opposite of factory farming and typically provides more food for the local community. As an aside, they've also got a great story on empowering women that you'll find on our blog. Let's hear from Alejandro.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Solano from the Mashpee Chocolate team. Greeting you all from this nice orchard, this food forest where we are in Ecuador, in the Chocó Biosphere Reserve. Today we're going to taste this beautiful bar. It's a 65% chocolate filled with cacao pulp bar, and it's a unique bar we started producing 15 years ago. Nice snap. And it's like a bonbon in a bar. Each of these squares is filled with cacao pulp. Very unique. One of my favorites, and everybody's favorites actually. The filling blends in good with the chocolate. It has like a citrusy, honey, floral, very national cacao. We only work with this heritage to try to save this heritage. Our regenerative project is focusing protecting biodiversity within this plot, but also in the bigger reserve where we are, and protecting toucans, numerous mammals, the river ecosystem. All in all, great chocolate.
One of my roles at the winery was leading new product development. So I would often get tapped to teach on product development with God in the repurposing business training. The premise is that nothing is impossible for God, and he hasn't stopped creating. So we have the opportunity to co-create with him for his glory and for the good of the world. In one particular session in 2010, I felt prompted by the Lord to share my chocolate example. I imagined if God were to develop a chocolate brand today, it would be good for your heart, it wouldn't have any slave labor in the supply chain, and it wouldn't melt in India. Little did I know these characteristics would define a product called Good King Snacking Cacao that was launched in 2015. Unfortunately, we're currently out of stock. So instead, while this chocolate does melt, we get to taste a product made in India that caters specifically to the Indian palate. Because Bonfiction is a tree-to-bar maker, they've been able to create a dark chocolate that has absolutely no bitterness. Please meet Akhil and Prathina of Bonfiction Chocolate in India.
Hi, I'm Akhil. Along with my wife Prathina, we started Bonfiction, a tree-to-bar chocolate brand in Rajahmundry on the banks of River Godavari in southern India. Today I'm going to introduce you to our creation, the Rose and Pistachio Skies. This bar is a combination of two cherished Indian ingredients, the roasted pistachio and real rose petals. The pistachios are roasted to perfection and blended into the real dark chocolate to create a natural harmony of flavor. Rose petals are added in subtle and small quantities to create a pleasant flavor that lingers after every bite. To truly experience this chocolate, take a bite, chew once or twice, and let it melt in your mouth to release the nutty and floral flavors. It is a truly unforgettable and unparalleled experience having this bar. Thank you for supporting Bonfiction, and see you soon.
While getting ready to return to Indonesia in 2014, I attended a prayer meeting where a stranger prayed for me and said, "I see you working with women." I smiled and quipped, "That's going to have to be God. Here's why." I had met only one female cocoa farmer out of hundreds, if not thousands, throughout my 3 months in Indonesia and another 2 months in Ecuador. Her name is Roos, and it was so memorable that I asked her for a photo. In fact, I had attended a conference the year prior with hundreds of cocoa farmers, where one of the speakers, you'll see them all on the stage here, addressed to the room, "Ladies and gentlemen," and then he corrected himself, "Lady and gentlemen," as the room erupted in laughter because I was the only woman in the room. I left that meeting crying out to the Lord, why did you send me a woman? It doesn't make sense to me. On that trip in 2014, I approached the leaders of a co-op and I said, I have this experiment I want to try. Are there a few people who can help me? The next day, 5 women showed up. And despite that prayer, I was stunned. By the end of the week, this was the group that was helping me. The reason women showed up is because traditionally, men are in the farms and women are in the kitchen. Since value addition was a kitchen experiment, it was the women who showed up for work. But God cares about both men and women working together. Galatians 3:28 says, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Exporting raw cacao had unintentionally excluded women from the value chain for hundreds of years. And I don't know for sure, but maybe that's why he sent a woman. For our final taste, we'll be tasting a family-owned tree-to-bar brand run by Elmer and Nayeli Pineda in Honduras. Honduras is one of the nations impacted by migration. In rural communities like Yohoa Lake, it's not uncommon for most men to work in other cities or nations while leaving the women behind. Brands like Yohoa Chocolate are providing meaningful work for women in their community, both on the farm and in chocolate making. With hyperlocal ingredients, we're excited for you to hear from Elmer and to try this new vegan coconut milk bar.
Hello, my name is Elmer Pineda from Yohoa Chocolate. We are in Honduras at the Yohoa Lake. My wife and I, we are producers from tree to bar. Means we have a plantation and we produce our chocolate all the way from the bar, from the fruit to the chocolate. Today, I want to present a special bar. This bar was made with 0 kilometers ingredients. All the ingredients were produced in the area. We started with the cacao, which was produced in our plantation. Also, we have our own coconut plantation. This is a dry coconut. We extract the milk from it, and that's the milk that we put in our bar. We also have a vanilla, also real vanilla in our chocolate. We call it 0 kilometers, also because the raw sugar cane is sourced from a co-op, a woman-run co-op from the area. They produce our sugar cane that we use to sweeten this bar. So we invite you to taste this bar. It's very unique, and it's just a real pleasure.
I want to highlight a few themes that run across all of the brands that we tasted today. Not only are they fairer and more deliciously satisfying, you're among the first to taste this next wave of origin-made chocolate. That's because this is a really special group of makers. All but one of these businesses started in 2012 or later, and many are among the first in their nations to make chocolate. Also, all of the businesses we featured are led or co-led by women. This was not because we selected only women-owned businesses. Women and food culture naturally go hand in hand, and I believe it's God's heart for both men and women to mutually thrive in God's vision for a better cocoa future. Finally, all of the makers are using sustainably grown specialty cacao. I point this out because many smaller brands may not be able to pay for expensive organic certifications, but can easily answer questions about their farming and sustainability practices. As we finish up, I want to point you to the wealth of information you'll find on your tasting insert. Remember that we are not the chocolate maker. So for the products that you tasted today, these QR codes will take you directly to each maker's shop or to the retailer of their choice. It also includes the ingredients list for any allergen concerns. We often get asked, what should I look for when shopping for chocolate? Here's what I suggest in order of priority. First, tree to bar or farm to bar. This means that the farmer is also the chocolate maker, and it's often the shortest chain from the farm to your door. Second, origin-made chocolate. Everything you tasted today and every product featured on our website is origin-made. Origin-made can increase income from cocoa by as much as 5 times for origin countries versus typical cacao sales. And you might be wondering why certifications like Fair Trade, Rainforest Alliance, or USDA Organic don't top our list. Most certifications still operate in that 8 to 12 layer chain tied to the commodity market. I used to believe that by purchasing Fair Trade, I was guaranteeing a living wage for farmers. Sadly, this is far from true. In Fair Trade's own study from 2018 in Ivory Coast, they found less than 7% of farmers achieved a living income. As a reminder, cacao is hand harvested like vanilla and saffron. It should cost more. Though we've traveled through the world today, it's a small world, and it's easy to connect with each of the makers and their companies personally on social media, especially Instagram and through their email list. So snap a photo of this page, and the next time you're shopping for chocolate, for yourself or for gifts, remember them. If you enjoyed tasting with us, we have 3 more tastings to choose from. Taste Chocolate from the Source is for chocolate lovers who aren't yet experts. It explores where cacao comes from, a step-by-step on how chocolate is made, and how to taste it like a pro. Travel the World Through Chocolate is for adventurous eaters who love to discover new flavors and food cultures, with each chocolate featuring a unique local ingredient or inclusion. Indulge in World-Changing Chocolate is a delicious way to dig deeper on important topics like sugar and health, fair wages and direct trade, sustainable agriculture, food waste, and empowering women. They're all an especially fun group activity with both virtual and in-person options. So whether you're gathering with a group of friends or hosting a team building at work, everyone gets excited about trying handcrafted chocolates from around the world. So head over to our website under Origin Made Tastings to find them all. Thank you for tasting with us today. As a chocolate lover, you have an incredibly important role to play in creating the cocoa future that we all hope for. Here are a few super easy ways to support. The next time that you're shopping for chocolate, buy a few of your favorites from today's tasting. You can tell your friends about us or even share a chocolate tasting with them from our website. Rate today's tasting using the QR code above. And while on our site, you can subscribe to our email list for mouthwatering monthly updates, find links to all of our social channels, and donate either one time or on a monthly basis to help us continue to support pioneering makers like those you tasted today who are creating a fairer and more delicious cocoa future.